Okay, so I mean it's fine. It's funny that you're in the setting of a pub and I'm drinking water.
Really? Okay. Well, I thought it'd be good to have a beer for your blog,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
and I got Guinness as well.
Oh, very good, very good, very good. Okay, so let's just crack on then. Right, so hi everyone. Today I'm talking with Brian. He's a prominent writer and blogger on the beautiful game, and he's an expert in all things football related to Brazil. We're going to talk about the upcoming World Cup and Brazil's chances in it. So welcome, Brian. Thanks for joining me this evening. Um,
It's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me.
so you have a Brazilian football blog. Can you care to tell me how this started for you and how did you get into this?
Yeah. Well, since I was a kid, I always liked Brazilian football, as a lot of people do, and I thought it'd be great if I can go to Brazil and see what the football's like there. So one way or another, I ended up going to Brazil, and I had a job there, nothing to do with football. So I used to live in Brazil, go to the matches, watch a lot of games. I live back in London now, but continue watching it and continue writing about it from London. So it's on my blog, brazilfooty.com.
Okay, and how long ago was this, Brian?
I lived there for 3 years in total and came back to London 5 years ago. So it was a little while back, but I'm still in touch with all things Brazilian.
Okay, okay. And did it live up to your expectations? Samba, sea, sand.
Yeah, there's a lot of samba, a lot of sea and sun and sand. It's a great country, Brazil. I really like it. It was probably different to my expectations. Living in Sao Paulo, which is a massive city. Just there's really buildings everywhere. It's not quite the impression that you have when you think of Brazil of beaches and sunshine. Although they do have a lot of beaches and sunshine. It's just whether you if you can work there, great. But most people work in big cities. A lot of people live in Sao Paulo, so that's where I was based. But I really enjoyed my time there. It's a great country.
And did you get the chance to play football out there?
I did. I played on the beach a few times. People like playing their foot volley on the beach and beach football. Um, I never played 11-a-side, but there's not actually a lot of big 11-a-side football pitches in Brazil. Um, you tend to have these five-a-side pitches, and people play a lot of five-a-side after work. So that's what I did. I played quite a few times after work on
And
five-a-side pitches.
and did you stick out like a sore thumb with your long ball game and your
Yeah,
with
you
lack of
know the sort of
skills, I guess?
safety first approach in a five-a-side field doesn't normally go down that well, particularly in Brazil. So yeah, when I hoofed it out the ground, they weren't too impressed. But it was okay. I managed to get by, scored a couple of goals, and didn't let the rest of the world down, let's say. So yeah, it was all good.
Are you allowed to tackle in a Brazilian game? Are you?
It's a good question. Yeah, you can, but there's probably less tackling there than you get in England or other countries.
Okay. So let's get down to the World Cup then. I mean, the most obvious question then, how do you think Brazil will do this summer?
Well, I may be biased, but I think their chances are very good. I'll have them. They're down as my favourites. Obviously, the likes of Germany, they're very strong. Spain are strong. But I think Brazil have improved a lot since the last World Cup. Obviously, there was that 7-1 loss to Germany, which was something like a national tragedy. Um, but I think they've got over that, and the new team they've brought in a lot of new players. Not that many from that night that are in the squad still. Neymar was injured that day, you might remember. So they have a new coach, a guy called Cheech, as they say in Brazil. Well, Tite, or maybe you say it like that in English. I'm not too sure. But he's a very good coach, and he won his first 9 matches in charge of the Seleção. So he had a great start, and he's a modern coach. He pays a lot of attention to details. He won quite a lot of trophies in Brazil with Corinthians, so the fans there they really like him. And time will tell. If he's not successful this time, he may turn into a villain. But I think they're in a better situation and they're mentally a lot stronger than they were 4 years ago. I think the pressure of playing at home and they felt they had to win and they were doing everything on emotions. They just lost their cool in that match, obviously, and I think they're more prepared mentally now. And I think Cheech is very good at that. Some people say he's a bit defensive, but at the end of the day, it's Brazil, and they still have a lot of good players. So maybe a defensive coach is what they need, and I think they'll still impress the world with some good attacking football.
Okay. So let's just look at the group. I think it's a pretty easy group, to be honest. I mean, Switzerland, Costa Rica, Serbia. They're not difficult
Yeah.
teams.
No, they don't really. Those matches don't really get the mouth watering. But I imagine they'll all come at. They'll be very defensive against Brazil, and Brazil will have to break them down. So that's going to be the big challenge. Can they do it? I think so. I was at Wembley in November when Brazil played England, and England they didn't really play like a home team. They played probably like Costa Rica or Switzerland or Serbia are going to play against Brazil. They sat back, and
Hmm.
Brazil created quite a few chances, but they just didn't have their shooting boots on that day. So I'm confident they'll get the goals. But it could be, there could be a couple of frustrations in there for Brazil. So let's see.
Okay. Who like? I mean, is that split loyalty there? That game? Did you
Uh,
have the half and half scarf?
which
England and Brazil.
yeah. Yeah, I guess it was. I was probably supporting Brazil, to be honest. I live in England and I'm half English, but I grew up in South Africa. So
Oh, okay, okay.
if it was Brazil South Africa, I would have supported South Africa. Although I don't think South Africa would have a great chance against Brazil.
Yeah.
Not in football anyway. Maybe rugby.
Maybe rugby, yeah, yeah, sure. Would you care to give just a small score prediction for each game?
Yeah, I'll go for 1-0 against Switzerland. Switzerland are quite a defensive team, and they've at the last World Cup actually, I was at Switzerland Argentina, and it was, if I recall correctly, 0-0 until
Yeah.
deep into the second half of extra time. So I think Switzerland could frustrate Brazil. They've got pretty good defence, but I fancy Brazil to nick a goal. In the other two games, I'll go for 3-0 against Costa Rica. Brazil get an early goal, Costa Rica have to come out, Brazil get a couple on the counter, and then 2-0 against Serbia.
Yeah. I haven't looked who to get in the next round. Have you checked?
No, I haven't. I haven't. But
I think England is somewhere lurking, isn't it, in the
it,
quarterfinals or
it,
something?
it could be. It could be. Yeah. For England, yeah. Yeah, I don't know. It's my honest answer.
Okay.
I guess whoever it is, both sides will need to be on their game, and there's no easy games at that
So,
stage.
the squad list is out. Apart from the obvious Neymar, and Firmino and Jesus or Jesus, I don't know how to pronounce
Yeah,
it.
yeah.
Is there any other players that perhaps you expect to shine that maybe is not so well known, or any young players we should look out for, or
Uh, well, to be honest, most of there's three locally based players that play the football in Brazil in the squad. One of them is Fagner, who's the right back for Corinthians, and he will most probably replace Dani Alves, which is a big loss for Brazil.
okay,
But Fagner is a good player. He's experienced, about 29 or 30. For most of his career, so now is his chance for the Seleção. Um, in terms, so with about 20 of the 19 play in Europe, there's one player in China, Renato Augusto. So most of the players are pretty well known, probably to the audience of your blog and to most sort of football fans around the world. In terms of surprises, I think Gabriel Jesus will start up front for Brazil, but again, he's not really a surprise anymore. He's still very young. I don't think he's a finished product. Neymar is obviously the star player. Yeah, I think I don't think maybe Fred, if he gets a game. There's a lot of talk about Fred.
okay.
Fred, not the striker Fred.
What's
The
another? There's
It's
another
just
one.
that, yeah, there's another Fred. Yeah, he plays for Shakhtar Donetsk, and he apparently is interesting both of the Manchester clubs, City and United. So
Okay.
he probably won't start, but I think a lot of fans in the Premier League will be interested or fans from Manchester will be interested to see how he does.
Yeah.
He's a good player.
Yeah, because the last fella, I think they had to put him down. He was that bad, wasn't he?
He wasn't good. And to be honest, that's Brazil's problem. They don't have that many number nines, traditional number nines. You know, a Romario or a Ronaldo. Gabriel Jesus is very good, but he's still inexperienced, not the finished product. Roberto Firmino also very good, but is he a real number nine? I don't know. Is he world class? I'm not too sure. But um, yeah, it is a little bit of a problem area for Brazil, and they've only got two out and out strikers in the squad.
Yeah,
So for them to get into that would be a problem.
yeah. In terms of Neymar, because he's such a star of the team, does that affect the balance? I mean, does he get on with his teammates? Is there a battle of egos, or how does he gel with the rest of the squad?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I think at the national team level, he gets along well. There was a lot of talk this season about him being in basically running the show at Paris Saint-Germain, and a lot of he had a big ego, and he upset the apple cart. There was that thing with Cavani and the penalty, and about he needs to take them. That was a problem, and he actually got asked about that in a press conference, and he was with Cheech, the coach,
Hmm.
and he broke down into tears, and I
Wow.
think he broke down into tears after Cheech basically defended him and said that, look, he's actually a great guy, he's a really integral part of the group, and we trust him. So I think he was overcome with emotion that he had the support of his national team coach, and I think Cheech is a very strong character. He wouldn't allow that to happen. He is a global superstar.
Hmm.
Um, Maybe I've got the rose-tinted glasses on. But another thing I should say is that the national team, they've been rotating captains for since Cheech became the manager. So they don't have a set captain. So every match, another player is a captain. And I think that the idea behind that is to share the responsibility, and that no one player is really bigger than others.
I'm not sure I like that idea though.
Sharing captains.
I don't know. I mean,
Well,
you
I
think
don't know.
you think of the great captains of the past, like Roy Keane and Terry Butcher and all these guys, and
Yeah,
you want a strong,
yeah,
you know.
that's true.
We'll see. We'll
Yeah, I
see.
mean, maybe last time that I think Thiago Silva was the captain, and he's still in the squad. And on that night, if I'm correct, David Luiz was the captain against Germany when they lost
Yeah,
7-1, and
yeah,
he's not in the picture anymore.
yeah,
Thiago Silva was injured for that match,
yeah,
but yeah, he was he a great leader? Probably not. Yeah, maybe Brazil lacked the leader.
yeah.
Could be
Yeah.
an issue.
Well, I guess like they don't really have someone like Dunga, They don't have that hard man really. Um,
No,
um.
no,
So,
they don't.
so Neymar I mean, he always seems to have this niggly injury. I mean, I don't know. Will that be completely healed by the time the games come around, or is it more a mental injury that he always, it always seems to be in his head. He has some kind of niggly injury. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, well, he's a very slight guy. He's pretty slender, and he got violently hacked down at the last World Cup, and that's why he missed the semi-final. Um, so the injury this time was a metatarsal. England had it with Beckham,
Yeah,
obviously.
yeah,
One or two others had the curse of the metatarsal, but luckily for Brazil, he got that injury with just about enough time for him to recover. So he's back in full training. From what I've heard, he winced a few times in a couple of tough challenges in training. They do happen.
mm,
But it seems that he's going to start in the friendly match against Croatia. That's on Saturday.
mm, mm.
So we'll see. I certainly hope he's fit.
Yeah, I can imagine the
Game.
Swiss Swiss defenders would be kicking him around the place then.
Yeah, quite possibly, quite possibly.
Yeah, Liechtensteiner he's a bit annoying.
Yeah.
Um, so,
Okay. Yeah, he
uh,
might be probably be mocking him actually.
so the build up for the World Cup, is it going so far so good in friendlies? Players are hitting form in the right time.
Yeah, I seems so. I mean, if anything, it's been going too well. I think since Cheech took over, his record is something like 15 wins, 3 draws, and 1 loss, which is almost too good to be true. So, have they peaked too early?
Yeah,
That's the question. Some I don't know. So it's gone very well. Is there any complacency? I don't think so. Hopefully not. Obviously, they've had a couple of injuries. Neymar, the concern. Hopefully, he'll be fit. Dani Alves is out, and they're playing on Saturday. They're playing Croatia, and then a week on Saturday they're playing Austria. So I assume they picked those 2 teams because they think they might be similar to the likes of
yeah,
Serbia or Switzerland, maybe quite defensive. So that's the final preparations. But they beat Germany in Germany like a month or two ago. So that kind of removed that psychological thing in their head that they're completely scared of Germany, and took a little bit of the monkey off their back. They haven't redeemed themselves from the 7-1, but it's all gone pretty well, really.
yeah. That was a good victory. Yeah, exercise demons, all right. So when you were in Brazil, did you get to go to any of the major games? Did you get to see Brazil in play?
I did. I saw Brazil-Argentina in Belo Horizonte, at the same stadium where Brazil lost 7-1 to Germany. Actually, they won. Ronaldo was playing. It was back then, and it was when Ronaldinho was the best player in the world. And unfortunately for me, he got injured in the practice sessions before the match, so he didn't play. But I got to see Ronaldo, and he scored a pretty sure he scored a hat trick. It might have been a hat trick of penalties that he won himself. So it was basically Ronaldo 3, Argentina 1, and that was a World Cup qualifier. So it was a great match. I've been to a lot of the club games as well. Living in Sao Paulo, we go to Sao Paulo. Is a team in Sao Paulo, the Corinthians, Santos, and Palmeiras. Some of the smaller teams as well, Portuguesa, Juven, Juventus or Juventude, one of them. I went to quite a few games.
So how does the atmosphere compare to going to a local English game?
Yeah, I wrote about this on my blog once. One of the issues is for some matches the stadiums will be quite empty, so you can get not a huge turnout. It could be because they're late at night and transport's not that good, or there is sadly a problem with violence in some of the stadiums, so that puts off some people from going. So some of the sort of middle games, the attendances aren't that big, but when you have the big derbies, and I've been to a few of them, Palmeiras, Corinthians, for example, then the atmosphere is electric. It's really fantastic. So the fans make a lot of noise, and it's a lot of passion, and slightly different to England. I mean, England has got a lot of great things about it. You get I remember I was with some Brazilian friends. They came to watch with me to see West Ham Leicester when both were in the Championship, and the Leicester fans brought 4,000 fans down and packed up the away ends, and it was a sort of mediocre game really, but they made a lot of noise, and my friends were really impressed that with the away support. So that's one of the great things in England. They pack out the stadiums. The seats are close to the pitch. You don't always get that in Brazil. So it's different, but I really think that the atmosphere and the big matches in Brazil is something special. There's a lot of noise and a lot of emotion, and it's a great experience.
Okay. And do they always expect to win the World Cup, Brazilian fans?
They do. They in particular they expected to win the World Cup last time. They've played at home twice now and lost twice. They back in 1950. lost to Uruguay in the Maracanã, and nobody could believe that. So they went and did it again last time. But they've won the trophy five times, so they are the leaders in number of trophies, and they do expect to win, and rightly so, with so many good players. What I would say is that there's a funny relationship. They expect to win, and they also have a lot of fear for some reason. So they're the favourites, but they're also a little bit scared, and it's a kind of a strange dynamic. And I think one of the reasons for them is the country. It's a great country, but it has a lot of issues, social issues, economic issues, political issues, and being so good at football, it's a way for them to say, well, we're good at something, we're the best in the world at that. So it's a national pride, but which it is for most countries, but it's in particular for Brazil, and they really take it seriously, and they expect to win, and if they don't, the players and the coach will be slaughtered, and the media, and that's kind of the way it is. But if they win, then they'll be gods. So that's the way it is there.
Sounds like death or glory, yeah. Um, I was going to say, well, I might as well ask you a little about England, I guess, if that's okay.
Okay.
Do you want to get another beer?
Yeah.
Do you want to get another beer?
Fair enough. Yeah, let's.
I know, no, it's okay.
Get some shots, actually.
I won't be long. How do you think England will get on? I mean, it seems like a new break, a new start for England. It's a little like a clean slate. It's a lot of young players. I've never heard of before. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah, well, it's a strange one. It's nobody is excited about this World Cup here. Really, just no one's talking about England, and even at the England-Brazil match, no one really seems to be that interested. They went to kind of watch Brazil, maybe the English. So I think they're a bit fed up with the sort of high expectations and then bombing out and the deception. So maybe it's a good thing having expectations really low. The squad, there's a lot of talented young players, but they're quite inexperienced. It's not the same kind of squad that you had, I don't know, 2002 or 2006 with Beckham, Rooney's, Rio Ferdinand, Gerrard, Lampard, and guys like that. So there's not really quite the same team anymore. Maybe that's why people are a bit apathetic. I don't know. It could work. They're good players. They could click. Unlikely, but maybe it's better to keep the expectations low, and anything else is a bonus. So.
Yeah, I mean, I think Southgate is surprisingly doing a good job. I wasn't expecting much from him at the start, but he's doing okay. I think.
Yeah. It's been a few decent performances and results, but yeah, against Brazil, it was I think Brazil had 67% possession. And that was at Wembley. England were playing like the away team, which I don't really like. England's a big footballing country and have good players. They should be trying to take the game to the opposition. No matter who cares if it's Brazil, you should still go for it.
Yeah.
So I kind of feel it's a bit, it's a bit pragmatic football. It's not like, it's not a Greece or, it's England, So.
Have you seen something in the last 20 years that I haven't seen?
Yeah. Maybe that's the problem. Everybody thinks it's England, but it's
Yeah. So generally, with regards to World Cup, who do you fancy? You said, who's your top team to win it, and have you got a dark horse?
Yeah, well, my top team to win is Brazil, and I might be biased. Germany, yeah, it's kind of obvious. Spain as well, they got great players. My dark horse would be Belgium. I mean, I don't know, do they classify as a dark horse? They've got really good players, so.
They haven't won anything yet, so I guess.
Yeah. So Roberto Martinez, I like him a lot. He had to go when he was at Everton. He really had to go, but what he did for Everton was he made them believe in the cup match. matches, and he did a really, it felt like Everton were going to win a cup. One season he got to two semi-finals, knocked out a little bit unluckily in both of those games. I just think he's a really good cup coach, Roberto Martinez. Everton, when he was the coach, we could beat anybody. We could beat. We won at United for the first time in 26 years or something like that. Got some good results against big teams and never looked afraid. So yes, defensively he was rubbish, but I think if he can get the attack to click, then yeah, Belgium could win it.
They certainly have a great team. I mean, a lot of good individuals on the Belgian team. So I do have a beer blog, and it's nice that you're making the effort. You're drinking beer, and as I drink water. But so I can only get Skull. Skull. Is that good enough? Is that what they drink in Brazil?
Skull. Yeah, people do drink a lot of it in Brazil, but it's really not a great beer, I would have to say, in my own opinion. And to be honest, in Brazil, they don't have a lot of tasty, good beers like you do in Europe. What they do have, though, is very nice beaches and sun and sand, and nothing beats drinking a cold beer, no matter what sort of beer, when you're on a beach on a hot day in Brazil. So they do have that, and you probably wouldn't want a Guinness or an IPA or a craft beer on the beach. A cold, lousy, a cold, bland tasting Sol is just perfect, actually. So yeah, that's what they have, and it's all right. It's all right when you're in Brazil.
Brian, thanks very much for sharing your time with me today. I really appreciate some of the answers you gave me. If people want to check out your stuff online, where could they find your stuff?
Yeah, so you just go to brazilfooty.com. That's Brazil with a Z, footy, FOOTY.com, and all of the stuff is there. All you need to know about Brazilian football.
And will you be updating it regularly during the World Cup?
That's the plan. Yeah, I've actually got a couple of tickets, so I'll not for Brazil, unfortunately, but Portugal, Spain, and Belgium, Panama. So I'll be in Russia, and the plan is to give some updates from there, and maybe some of my friends will collaborate, and actually a couple of my friends are going to Brazil, Switzerland.
Okay.
So we might get one of them Swiss actually, who I met in Brazil. So we might get a couple of updates from him from the game there. So check out brazilfooty.com. You could also follow on Twitter at brazilfooty. That's the Twitter handle. So it's all online. Yeah.
Yeah, I forgot to ask you that. That was the most important question. So you are heading out to Russia.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Was it difficult to get tickets?
I got tickets when you didn't know what the games were, or what the teams were rather. So I got what I could get. I wanted some in Moscow and in St. Petersburg, but those were unavailable. But I got games in Sochi, and they turned out to be pretty good. So,
and will you between the two games, will you be traveling far?
So I'm doing a bit of tourism, going to Moscow and Sochi, Moscow and St. Petersburg, and then to Sochi for the game. So it's a massive country, obviously. So I'll be flying between St. Petersburg and Sochi, and getting an overnight train from Moscow to St. Petersburg. So the distances are quite big, but it's not. Most of the games are in Western Russia,
Okay.
so it's no games in Vladivostok or anywhere.
Okay. With regards to Brazil, then, I mean, do they have a long roundabout trip, or how are their games situated?
I think they're actually in London at the moment training, and then they go to Sochi for their training base in Brazil. And their training base in Russia. They've got a game in St. Petersburg. They've got a game in a place called Rostov, I think.
Down south, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, that's not far from Sochi.
Yeah.
Maybe about 8 hours drive. So we say it's far by British standards, but not that far by Brazilian standards or Russian standards. And I don't know where the third match is, to be honest. But yeah,
Okay.
let's hope tiredness isn't an issue.
Okay, Brian. I think the heat has us frazzled.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
That's brilliant. Thanks
Yeah.
very much.